Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. It is Saturday, and I'm doing a bit of a run of sort of daily videos over the next however long it takes me to get stuff sorted, if I've got enough to share, to get stuff sorted for before we go for the next grocery run. So this grocery period has been 10 weeks long and it's been a hard slog. So what I'm doing over this week is planning the next one and getting rid of anything that's in the fridge and freezers that needs to be used. So we're continuing on from the day before and just getting started. So I've got the jars of Birria here from canning yesterday. So they've sat on the bench overnight to finish their sealing. I'm double checking seals. So I pull all the clips off to put them away, and then you pick everything up by the lid, give it a jiggle, and then if it's nice and concave and it's holding well, then that's sealed. So I'm going to open one of these up for lunch. Not just yet. It's only 9:30, but I am going to open one of these up for lunch to try them, because I have the other 2 jars in the fridge that I have to decide what I'm going to do with, and that extra Birria sauce. So I need to work on that. So I'm going to get these have all sealed well. Some of them have some bigger caps of fat on them than others. I'm going to put these aside so that I can wash the jars. I always wash the jars before I put them up on the shelf, because any sort of greasy residue can attract bugs and stuff, and you don't want that on the shelf. So I'm going to put these aside, and then the kids have requested pancake bake for breakfast, so I'm going to get that done first thing and in the oven for them. So let me move these out of the way. All right, so my super simple protein pancake bake. I've got a jar of homemade yogurt here, so I'm going to throw that in. This is my last jar too in the fridge, so I really need to make another one, and I need a spatula. So I do a jar of this. Now, if I was using like the store-bought Greek yogurt that's really thick, I make sure to use about 600 grams. But the homemade yogurt's a lot thinner. So I found that I don't need that, like the jar is fine. I've actually run out of chocolate chips though, so I have a jar here of, this is canned raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, and I'm going to throw that in as the extra liquid to help with flavour of this particular pancake bake. I do have another jar as well that I might turn into a sauce, we'll see. And we want 6 eggs. Now, come from our own chickens, so we always crack them one at a time before we put them in. 6 eggs, and then we're going to add some of the protein powder. I use the Macro Mike's, not sponsored, just my preference of protein powders. We have a dozen different flavors and really enjoy it, so you know. And I'm going to add 2 scoops. Now I just grabbed a random one out of the, I'm trying to use up the ends of a bunch of these because we just have the ends of a bunch of flavors left, and this is choc honeycomb, which probably, you know, isn't the most obvious choice to have with berry pancake bake, but it's fine. So it's 2.5 scoops. It was what was the end of the thing. So all I'm trying to do is use the ends of some of the bags so that I make sure that I know what I have for when I want to order again. We're going to use some baking powder, which I need a spoon for. I tend to use a heaped tablespoon of baking powder, and then we're going to add some flour, and I have been adding just a few drops of this monk fruit sweetener. I don't want to add more bulk. I don't really want to add more sugar, but especially without the chocolate chips, we're going to add a little bit of that. So now I just want to add 350 grams of flour. And all we're going to do is spin it 30 seconds, speed 5-ish, and then put it in a baking tray. scrape down and spin it just a little bit longer, and you're looking for that pancake batter consistency. All right, so that's what we go. And then we've been just using the cast iron pans, doing one big batch in this. So I've been making this consistently. Like it was a couple of weeks ago I was making different versions of this, trying to figure out what worked. I've now been stuck on this version for the last couple of weeks. The kids ask for it regularly, and I make it every couple of days, every day if I would for them. But I have now run out of yogurt. As I said, I might get that going as well once this is in the oven, and then that way it'll be ready to go in the fridge by the time I go to bed. So that's all we do in there, and it takes around about 40 minutes at about 180. So I'm going to stick that in the oven now. All right, the pancake bake is done. We've ended up, this is the sort of texture that we end up with, generally speaking, this fluffy sort of a thing. It wasn't how we originally did it, but this is how we've ended up liking it, sort of like a, maybe it isn't cooked. We put a cake tester in there and it was clean, but I don't know that this is, I forgot to check the time when I put it in there, and
just the middle, just there.
Middle's a little bit wet still, so I'm going to stick that back in. That's not a great showing for you, is it? But I forgot to check the time when I cooked it, so that'll probably just need another 5 minutes. All right, so we just put it in for a bit longer, and now it's cooked all the way through in the middle. So this is what we've been doing lately. It's sort of fluffy pancake bake. Everyone's been enjoying it. And then normally we have maple syrup or something with it, but I think they're all out of maple syrup. They do have some honey, but I did sweeten this one, so it shouldn't be as much of a need for extra sweetening. But yeah, fluffy sort of. Yeah.
Thank you, Mama.
So they will help themselves to this until lunch. Okay, we're going to try the jar of the birria. So we have these low carb Mr. tortillas. They're only 1 net carb per little tortilla, and they cook up a little bit like corn tortillas. They get quite crispy. So we're going to give these a go with the birria. So plan is to stick it straight in a pot. We've got that layer of fat on the top. Stick it straight in the pot and heat it up, and then do the normal. Dip the tortillas in the consomme and then fry them off with the meat and cheese. So that's the plan. So we've got all the beef in here, and it's all just fall apart shredded beef. So we're going to heat this all up till it comes to a simmer. So I'm going to bring it up to a simmer and get the beef all heated all the way through. I'll pull the beef out to leave the consomme behind to dip the tortillas in, and then we'll fry them off and we'll see how we go. All right, so it's come up to a hard simmer. I'm going to pull the beef out and leave the consomme behind, and then we will, oh, it's hot. We will, I'll heat up a cast iron pan as well. So there's a fair bit of juice. I wasn't sure if the cup of sauce would be enough, but I feel like there's enough there to dip the tortillas, but also to have a little bit in a dip bowl if that's what you wanted. So I'm going to put this aside, and I'll get the cast iron pan going as well. Alright, so we're just going to do the birria thing, dip the tortillas in the fat. I'm going to put a bit of cheese. I haven't used these in this sort of a method before. Obviously the liquid leaves them a little bit more fragile, so I just have to be aware of that. And we'll see if they crisp up nicely. They're going to be tasty regardless, but I would normally hand make corn tortillas for something like this. So, can I have an egg flip, please? So we will give these a go. I'd say the beef it's very tasty. It's fall apart, and it's, you know, it's good, but it's not as rich as any of my scratch made birrias are normally. So obviously I dulled down some of the fats and spices and stuff because I was canning it and I didn't want it to end up overpowering, but I'd say it needs a bit more than what I did. So and yes, these tortillas are not liking this process, so they may not be dippable in the birria sauce because of whatever they're made out of. Normally the corn tortillas hold up really well to dip and then do it, so we might end up I won't dip them first. I might just fry them off crispy, and then we'll put this birria sauce in a little bowl and we can dip it in that instead of doing it this way, just to make it a bit easier. So, because they're not crisping up. The liquid obviously is reacting with whatever the ingredients are in it, and they're ending up soft rather than crispy like they normally do. So I'll give the other method a go and I'll come back. So the little tortillas work really well like this. See, when they hold their shape, they go kind of crispy, and that. So obviously, as I said, whatever the gums or whatever that's in them to make them low carb, getting them wet doesn't work. So we've got little crispy ones that we will dip into the consomme. And that will work. So there we go, little tacos, and they can be picked up and dipped into the consomme. We ended up using a whole jar for the 8-ish that we made, which is what I sort of said. If Darryl and I were eating it, we'd probably go through a whole jar in a sitting, and then the kids would probably go through a whole jar between them, because they tend to have more in the way of breads and stuff with it, whereas we have the meat as the main focus. But yes, we will definitely eat through those, but I'm going to have a think about what I want to do for the next batch. All right, so the day ran into a bit of a hiccup. So I did lunch and we did the same thing for the kids. And then Darryl went to fetch water, and the frame from the IBC had snapped off the bottom of the IBC. So then we cannibalized another IBC frame to put together to put that one in, but it took time because we had to find bolts and screws and, you know, anyway, we got that done. And then he's gone off to fetch water, but it's now 1:45. We've got the washing done and things like that as well, but it's now 1:45 and I'm already pooped. It's been a long day. I didn't sleep real well last night. The dogs are driving me nuts because the neighbours are at their property for the long weekend. And yeah, but got to get stuff done still, because I've got limited time until I'm off on the grocery shop, and there's always just stuff to get done. So I have a bunch of computer work that needs doing, but I've got one hell of a headache at the moment because of standing out in the sun with the IBC for all this time and not sleeping real well. Because I'm blind in one eye, the severe scarring on the cornea and stuff, it makes it quite sensitive to glare. And so, like, I always drive with sunglasses on, and I don't do sunlight very well. Wish the dogs would stop. And so my face is pretty sore, my head's sore, and a nap would be really nice. But I got to get some stuff done first. So first up, I'm going to do hamburger buns for the kids for dinner tonight. So I've got to get that beef minced up. So I'm going to start some hamburger buns to proof, and then I will get the beef minced, and then I will throw most of the beef in a pot with all the stuff for bolognese, and it can simmer for the next 4 hours. And we keep 2 kilos aside for hamburgers for tonight. Now Darryl and I will just have meat patties and stuff. When Darryl went in to town a couple of days ago. I got him to buy lettuce and tomatoes, so we have lettuce and tomato to have with those hamburger patties, and I pulled some bacon out of the freezer and stuff too, I think, so we can do bacon, cheese, hamburger patties, lettuce, tomato. The kids can have it on rolls. So let's start with that anyway. Let's get some brioche hamburger roll dough sorted so it can proof. This is one of the very few recipes that I've actually got on the website, so if you're interested in it, my brioche hamburger rolls are on the website to use. But again, I do a really sort of a simple method. I don't like eggs in my brioche doughs. And I don't even like them too heavy on the milk. So I'm going to grab some coconut cream. Alrighty, so I do my standard. So I do 180 or around about half a tin of coconut cream per batch. I regularly do 2 batches, which is why half a tin works. I use the whole tin between the 2 batches. I probably won't today. I'll probably just tip that into a jar for the fridge. And then I want 720 of water. So 900 liquid all up. Alright, so we have 900 of liquid. We're going to add a generous amount of yeast, sort of 20 to 30 grams depending on your weather on the day. We're going to add sugar because these are a brioche roll. This helps to get that yeast nice and active, but also helps with the browning of the buns and gives them a sweetness because, as said, they're brioche buns. So brioche buns are known for being sweet. So we want about 150 of sugar in there. Then we're going to do 150 grams of ghee. It's solid at the moment, so I'm going to grab a spoon. 150 grams of ghee or butter, or you could use oil as well, whatever you want as your fat component, but ghee is always nice. This is a honest to goodness ghee, and it is a lovely ghee. It's not one I buy, generally speaking, because it's quite expensive for the rate that we go through ghee. It was bought for me. Now I can't for the life of me remember the lady's name who bought it for me, and I'm really sorry. I keep all the little tags, but they're in the office. But when Sonnet dropped the big jar of ghee and I had no ghee, she sent this through for me, so thank you very much. But in the end, by the time we needed it, I needed ghee again. I'd already bought more ghee, so this is good because I've just run out of ghee again and I go shopping this week, so we're using this one. So 150 grams of ghee. We want some salt, about 20 grams of salt. And then we're going to add flour. Now you can mix your baker's flour with your plain flour here, sort of 1100 to 180, 200 of plain, which can sometimes help keep them a bit lighter. I'm going to be lazy and not open 2 containers, so I'm just going to do 1250 odd of baker's flour. And then I'm just going to bring this together on the KitchenAid. Now brioche doughs tend to take a bit longer to knead than a standard dough, and you want them a little bit smoother than a lot of other doughs that I would just leave shaggy. So it sometimes takes 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes to get them into the right consistency. So we'll just let it go. And while it's doing that, I'll get stuff together for the beef mince. So that's been a few minutes. It's coming together nicely. I'll give it a little bit longer and then I'll scoop it into a container to proof. Now, in the meantime, over the noise of that, this is the beef that I've got that I just wet myself with. This is the beef trim from Costco. So I go to the door, I knock on the door and I say, could I please have a box of beef trim? The beef trim is what they turn into their mince. So it's a 80, 20, 90, 10 sort of a mix. I'm not sure what they're doing at the moment. It does change sometimes. And they give it to me in the box, vacuum sealed. The box size is whatever size you get. So sometimes it's like a 15 kilo box, sometimes it's a 25 kilo box. It just depends on what's in that box. This is a pretty big bag. I want to say this is probably 10 kilos. And it actually looks like some really nice roast pieces, which sometimes it's a lot of fatty, tendony, you know, not so great pieces, which are perfectly fine for mince. This actually looks like it's got some significant roast pieces in it, so I'll assess it as I go through, because I could use some of this with that leftover birria sauce. So I still have those 2 jars of birria. I really need to put them through the pressure canner today, but I don't want to run the pressure canner for 2 jars, and I have that sauce there, and I reckon I've probably, I'm going to turn that off, I've probably got enough sauce there for 2, 3, maybe 4 jars. So if I fill a couple of jars with this beef, it's not going to be quite as nice as the stewing beef, but it'll still do what it needs to do. And that way I'm just getting the birria sauce done, I'm not storing it anywhere, and we get this batch done, and then when I make the next batch I start fresh. So we've got, what did we end up with, 6 jars on the shelf, and if I do say another 6 jars all up, 12 jars. We'll probably eat that in a few weeks anyway, because it'll be a really simple lunch meal to have. Don't know, we'll see. So first of all, before I open this, I'm going to put that dough into a thing to proof so that I don't have raw meat out while I'm doing that. Oil this one and get this dough in. Now, brioche dough is a pretty wet dough. This one looks a little more wet than usual, but as I have been saying on most of my videos lately, I've got the skill set to be able to handle doughs that aren't quite right, so I haven't been correcting them. And I'm really slack at following even my own recipes. Like, people who've made this off my website probably looked at me making it and went, that's not what your website says. Yeah, I know. I suck. But everyone who makes it from the website raves about it. So obviously if I followed my own recipes properly, it might work better. But it's fine. So it's a little bit slack, but it's not overly sticky, and I will make it work. And I've got time. I need it to sit for a while before I get to it. So stick that up on the back of the smoker like that, and then we will get back to the beef. So, all right, all I'm going to do, pull it out, cut it up. We want the sizing appropriate for going through the mincer. That's our goal here. That's the whole goal. Because even if I don't use it all today, though, I can make up a really big batch of bolognese because we have none in the freezer, and it's one of those meals that is fantastic to have available. So again, with the knife needing sharpening, and I still don't know where that sharpener is. Sometimes I will trim some of the silver skin only because it gets caught up in the mincer. But I really do need my knife sharpener. But look at these big meaty pieces. Like, yeah, I might trim a bit of the silver skin off these, and we can fill some jars with these maybe. Alright, so I've cut it all up. Now this is a very lean bag of meat. There just doesn't seem to be much fat in it at all. So when I do the hamburger buns, I'll probably mince some, when I do the hamburger beef mince, I'll probably mince some bacon in it because it's very lean. But while I did it, I filled 3 quart jars with beef. Again, it's a whole lot leaner than the stuff that I used in the other jars. And I'm only going to do 3 because I've got 2 of the Fowler's jars, and I'm just not sure how well, like, I can fit 6 Fowlers, I can fit 6 quart jars, but I'm not sure how well they go in together. And I just, this seems like a good number. I'm not positive on the amount of sauce that I've got left, and this is what I picked. So I might actually grab the sauce out now to do get these jars sorted so that I can get the canner going for these, because that's going to take like 3 hours. And then I don't know, maybe I'll get the veggies started for the Bolognese and then mince this while they're cooking off. I don't know. I'm a bit flustered today. We'll get this sorted. Let me get the Birria sauce out. Right, so I've got my 2 jars from yesterday extra, and then I've got these. I'm gonna have to. I got a packing stick. I didn't put it away, so I've got a packing stick here. The sauce has set up quite thick because it's been refrigerated, which is just going to make it harder to disperse. I suppose I could have warmed it up, couldn't I? Too late now. So what we did in the other jars was about a cup of liquid, and that worked well. So if I can work a cup into each of these jars, then that will be fine. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to work the sauce into each of these jars, and then maybe, you know how I discussed yesterday and I didn't think about it, maybe I put I know that I've got 3 jars full of meat here now, so because this sauce is so thick, I'm going to make a mess, because that's what I'm good at doing at the moment. Get all the meat out into here. Such a mess at the moment. That's just life in general for me, I think. And then get all this sauce that's left over, which I think should have been the plenty, like the 3 cups worth. It appeared that way anyway. And get all of this all over the beef, like that. And then we're going to pack the jars again. As I said, making a mess. But that way there's sauce all the way through it. We'll scrape the last of the sauce that's in the bowl into the jars as well. And again, I'll have to clean the rims really, really well. But I think with the temperature of the meat and the sauce both being as cold as they are, because we're packing these as we are, yesterday the sauce was warm, so it spread through the jars a whole lot easier. Now I'm going to give my hands a quick rinse, and then I'm going to grab a better spatula than the one that I've got, and we will top each of these jars up with the sauce, and I think we will call that good in Nyssa style, which is, you know, tolerable. Now I've made a big mess, so I left that packing stick. Let's just get some air bubbles out of this. Not that it really matters, because it's predominantly raw meat anyway. I always think I could cut all this faffing about that I do, you know, all the going backwards and forwards and deciding what I'm doing out, but then it wouldn't be a true showing of, you know, don't do what I do. So I've got some white vinegar in a bowl, and I'm just going to give these jars a really good clean. Just gonna give them a wipe first. Alright, so I'm just going to give these a really, really good clean with the vinegar. A little bit of vinegar in the jars isn't going to hurt the product, so I'm being very generous with the vinegar on the paper towel. Lids. These on, and then I'm going to start these in the canner, and then I'll move on to the next one, and then that way these will be done, you know, sometime before I need to go to bed. So the jars are in the canner. I've got it on really low because I'm going to take it up really slowly because those jars are fridge temp. So next thing I'm going to do is get all these veggies going for the bolognese in a pot, and then I'll mince the beef. So I like to mince all my veggies with the Thermomix. I just find it better to, thank you, to have everything just uniformly minced to go in with the beef. So I've got half a dozen big garlic cloves here. So we got half a dozen of those. I got Darryl to buy me a few extra onions because I was out. So these are only little ones, so we'll probably do half a dozen of these as well. Mince them up. Alright, so we got half a dozen small onions in there as well. I also have got Darryl to grab me some carrots because I didn't have any left. And normally I would have some shredded in the freezer for use for this or for carrot cakes and things like that, but I didn't have the freezer room with all the extra meat, and so I didn't have any frozen either. So I just got him to buy some carrots. I used some in the birria. The rest was for this, and I'll leave a couple for the boys. I'll leave at least 3 in there for the 3 small boys who really enjoy carrots as snacks. So I'll leave, what do we got? There's 3 carrots left there for the 3 boys to have as a snack as well. Normally we buy carrots by like 20 kilos worth, and I'm not entirely sure. Oh, I suppose 10-week shop. I suppose that says it all, doesn't it? We ran out. Carrots last really well in the fridge. Like they last, if you store them appropriately, they last our whole shopping trips normally, but it was a 10-week trip. So, all right. So now I'm just going to mince all of this up. I don't appear to have a Thermomix lid. Give me a sec. We're using the Thermomix. Now that's really easy for you to see, but alright, we've got it all minced up. There's a few bigger bits. We don't have a problem with a few bigger bits. So that's the garlic, onion and carrot. I would normally have celery in there as well, but I don't have any in the freezer or fresh. So that's, I have my really big pot here. I'm going to put some oil in the bottom. That, and then get this turned on, and we're just going to start sauteing the veggies. So I'm going to tip these straight in. So we've got our pot here, big pot. I'm just going to tip this straight in. Oh, there's a big clove of garlic that got missed, so I will run that back through, and we're just going to start cooking that off. I also have a bag of mushrooms here that we had, because I bought a box of mushrooms. We had excess, and I didn't get to them to do anything with them. Now that I've got the dehydrator, I would have dehydrated these, but at the time, so I'm just going to mince these up as well. Like that, and I'm going to add them. And the other half of the bag as well. All these Ziploc bags will go back into the freezer for use for the same items again, because storing them in the freezer is the way that I keep them clean and reusable. Alright, last lot of mushroom now. I just need to grab the spatula. And I'm just going to tip that into the pot as well and start sauteing it off. I also have 2 bags of shredded zucchini that are going to go in as well. So I'm just going to load it all in the pan and get it going. I defrosted some of the bulk bacon that I bought as well. I forgot that I bought it. Actually, I was going to do English muffins or something with it, and I didn't get around to it. So I'm going to mince a bunch of this to go into the bolognese. some of this we'll use with the beef for the hamburger patties because that beef is so lean. And then we'll see. I think it's 2.5 kilos in here, so I'm going to just... So I'm just going to like do, I don't know, that much, a bit more, sort of that much maybe. We'll go in the bolognese. The rest of this can just go in the fridge for the moment.
In the fridge?
Yeah. And then I just mince that up to add into the bolognese because I like the flavour of it. And then we will pull the mincer out and do the actual beef mince. So that's the bacon. All right. So I'm going to clean this up and get the mincer out. All right, Darryl helped me. We used the Louvel mincer that I really like. I rave about this one every time. There is an affiliate link in the description. It takes about a kilo. It takes about a minute a kilo, and it's low wattage, and it just works really well. So we've done all the beef except for 1.5 kilos that we can do for burgers. So I'm just going to throw all of this into the pot with all the veggies. I don't know how much is here. I don't really care. We will just add sauce to make it work. So yeah. So we're just going to put that in. I've got my meat breaker uppery thing that I'm going to use for, what Darryl's going to use for me, for that. And now, over exaggeratedly, actually I need this. I haven't done the hamburger stuff. Yeah. And then
I have to break it up. That's what I was doing. Sorry.
All right, now.
I'll do it petite.
So now I'm just going to do the hamburger stuff. I also have 1/2 kilo of bacon. Now, unfortunately, this bacon is pretty lean, so it's not going to do a huge amount for the fat, but it will help a bit. So I'm just going to mince up the rest of this beef and the bacon together. So I'm going to put this meat for the hamburgers in the fridge for the moment. I'm just going to cover it and put it in the fridge while I have to shape the burger buns. So that dough is done. So I'm going to clean this up, get this in the fridge, shape the burger buns while we're doing the bolognese. All right, there's going to be a lot of noise going on now. We've got the meat simmering. I need to add the tomato-based products and stuff to that. I will get there in a minute. We've also got the weight for the Birria is dancing, so I've started my 90-minute timer for that. And we've got our dough is ready to go. So first up, I'm going to get this shaped and put in pans to do its second proof so that it will be ready to bake in sort of half an hour. And then I'm going to add all the tomato products to the bolognese because it can simmer for a couple of hours after dinner time. That's fine because it's not for today's dinner anyway. So we're just going to tip all this dough out. Now this dough was quite wet, which I was aware of. Sometimes that makes for a really soft roll, mind you. So sometimes it's, whilst it makes it a little harder to handle, it's also kind of nice. So we're just going to be very gentle with it. A little bit of flour on the board, and then that flour is now becoming the top surface so that it's a little easier to work with. And because it's such a well hydrated dough, that little bit of extra flour is not going to make any difference. All right, so it's a very slack dough. Not necessarily a bad thing. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to do our pieces. Let me grab a baking tray, cast iron baking trays that I use. Really do need to update some of my shared stuff. Someone asked me the other day to update my Amazon wishlist, and I really slacked at it because I always feel like it's like I'm asking people for things, and I hate that. But I've had a few requests to update it lately, so I did the other night and added a bunch of puzzles and board games and stuff for the kids, because over winter we spend a lot more time inside. So I thought that that was sort of, you know, something that people can buy that the kids will enjoy, and is good seasonal. But I also added a couple of bits and pieces of kitchen things, some new spatulas and utensils and things like that. So I did that for those that were asking. All right, so we're going to do about 90-gram balls, and we're just going to shape them. Use a fair bit of flour because, as I said, this dough just ended up really slack, but it's fine. And 90 grams works well for hamburger buns. I do normally put them on flat trays so that they have room to spread out, because I like them to be flatter rather than higher when it comes to hamburger buns. But the thing is that this dough ended up very wet. I don't know, it's holding its shape okay. But the kids don't really care about the shape, so I might just make it easy on myself and leave it in the high-sided pans. So all I'm going to do is go through 90 grams, shape them all, put them all in the tray. 2 trays of rolls. I'm going to let them proof while I get the sauces that need to go in the bolognese. So I'm just going to put them aside to proof, and let's work on the bolognese. Alright, again, we got lots of noise. Weight dancing pot. So first up, I've got 4 litres of this gorgeous chicken stock from yesterday. It's got a huge gelatinous fat cap on it that's going to go, oh, the whole thing's jelly. Look at that. The whole 4 litres is jelly. So that is going to be amazingly tasty. So yeah, that is literally big chunks of bone jelly. So we're going to put that 4 litres in. I still have a quart of it left, and actually looking at the texture and everything of it, I'm going to use that for a soup of some kind, I think. So we've got 4 litres of that bone jelly going in. Now we also have 2 big tins of the Mori crushed tomatoes. So these are 800 grams each. Alright, and then I'm going to put 2 of the passata jars in as well. I will put a little bit of water in each of these jars to get any excess out. Normally I'd use stock, but because my stock was solid, that wasn't going to work, was it? So there we go. Now I just need to wash my hands because I just managed to get tomato all over them. And we're going to give this a mix. And all that stock's going to melt down, and tomatoes flavors are going to permeate, and then I will start adding some other flavors. So I'm going to bring that up to a simmer first, and then I'll add things like my Worcestershire sauce and my balsamic vinegars and all that sort of thing. But I'm going to bring it up to a simmer first, let all that stock come back up to temperature, and just take 5 minutes. Alright, so we've got it at a simmer. We're going to add a few different things. We're going to add some Worcestershire. Sonnet wants to help, so we're going to add like down to sort of here on that. So we give it a pour, yep, and then check. A little bit more. Maybe just a touch more. So it's probably about half a cup of the homemade Worcestershire sauce. And then we're going to add a bunch of paprika. So we're going to give some really, really good shakes. Yep. We're going to add a bit of salt. How much? Probably about half of what's in there. Yeah, and we're going to give that a stir. Then we will add some balsamic vinegar, which I think is under there in a big jar. I got some beef stock as well. Some bouillon there. And then we'll probably need something sweet, some sugar or something to counteract the acidity in the tomatoes. Like put, say, 3 tablespoons in, and we'll see. It's alright, it's only had baking powder on it. I'll probably just leave it at that for the moment, let it cook for another sort of 45 minutes, and then get Darryl to try it. That'll bring me up to 5, and then what we'll probably do is put a lid on it and let it come down to room temperature, and then stick it in the fridge, and then sort it out tomorrow. Sonnet did request some lasagna soup, so I could turn some of this into lasagna soup for dinner tomorrow night, perhaps. I have to make some pasta to do that. We'll see how we go. But yeah, we'll get it all cooked to the right spot, and then we'll put it in the fridge probably. So I'm just going to let it simmer for another 45, which yeah brings us to about 5 p.m. So it should be around about when I'm sort of doing dinner. The buns are proofed, so we're going to egg wash them, and you want to grab some sesame seeds. So egg wash the buns. I think they're on the bottom shelf. And then Sonnet can sprinkle some sesame seeds. I really need to get on the cards before I go to the shopping trip is to do the herbs and spices order, because everything bagel is really nice on these, but I don't have the stuff to make everything bagel, so you can sprinkle them on. So we'll just get some sprinkled sesame seeds on these, and then we'll get these in the oven. They take about 30-35 minutes to cook, about 180, and you just have to watch them because they do brown up quickly because of the sugar in the rolls. So we'll get these going. They'll be ready around about the time that we'll check the Bolognese again, and I don't know how long the canner has to go. It has 40 minutes. So we'll get these in the oven. I'll come back. Bread rolls out, hopefully cooked through. So this is the brioche rolls out to cool. I am going to do the meat patties shortly. I've turned the Bolognese off. It's going to come down to temp now, and I'm just going to do the hamburgers. So I do a generous amount of salt, and then a generous amount of onion powder, and that's all I add to my mince for hamburgers. And I'm just going to put that through. We'll do it into 90-gram lots and cook it off in a bit of ghee, and that's our hamburger patties. So we've got the bacon and beef mix here. Hamburger buns are done, and we've got lettuce and tomato. So pickles, kids can have whatever they want on them, and we'll do the same. So I'm just going to pull out approximately 90-gram pieces, 4 at a time on the pan. So I'll do 4, I'll weigh out 4 at a time, and then on the scales like this, and then I'll press them into the pan, and we'll cook them off, and I'll show you what we get up with afterwards. I do like to use the burger press to get the patties nice and thin, but the pans that I use just aren't conducive to doing it on the pan, so I tend to do it between some paper first, and I just squish it like this and then transfer it into the pan. I find that works really well for my purposes. I just did all this and then realised I didn't hit record. Bunless burgers. We got pickles on the side. We have double meat patty with cheese. We have some caramelised garlic paste, some mayo, some tomato, some lettuce, and there we go. Alright, the mic battery is low. The generator's going, so hopefully it's like 8:30 at night. So hopefully it lasts long enough to get through this, because I'd imagine the background noise of the generator is pretty high. So it's 8:30. The camera is resting on the Bolognese, which is still quite warm. So, and once it's cooler, like probably before Darryl goes to bed at midnight, we'll stick that in the fridge. The jars of Birria are out here on the bench resting for overnight. And we had hamburgers. A whole bunch of those buns have been put away for tomorrow, as well as some meat patties and some extra mince. And yeah, this and it's cold. I got my avocado dressing gown on, because it's like 14 degrees here at the moment, which isn't freezing but is cool. We're in that kind of crappy point of the year where it's not cold enough to run a fire, but it's freezing of a morning. Like got down to like 4 point something I think the other morning, but it's still not cold enough like of an evening when you'd normally start the fire. It's too warm in the way our house is. So anyway, so yeah, that was another day of trying to get stuff done. Now I am going to have to go through my fridges and freezers and see what I've got left, to inventory that and plan the shop and stuff next probably. So it's Saturday evening, so what I'll do is I'll probably edit this up and I might put this out tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow I'll do my normal chat sort of a video, but I might not put it out till Monday morning. And then Monday I will do the planning and inventorying and all that sort of stuff, and then put that out on Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll see how we go. What else I need to get done? I've got the majority of what needed to be done now. I don't have much left that needs to like seriously be done before I go. Could probably do with, I forgot to make that yogurt today, so I need to make yogurt. I could probably do with a whole big batch of smoothie pops in the freezer for while I'm gone and things like that, but we'll see. So anyway, I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm not sure why anyone does, but I'm grateful regardless. Bye.